Today is November the 2nd, 2023. We are recording on November 1st, 2023. We have a very special guest joining us right now. His name is Robert Munnich, also known as Bobby Germany from Flames Nation. We're going to be talking with him about what the mess about the Calgary Flames is right now, and we're going to also discuss what direction should they take at this point? That and plenty more with Robert Munnich here on the Flamin' Talk podcast. And welcome to episode 7 of the Flamin' Talk podcast, presented by DraftKings as a part of the Hockey Podcast Network. As I mentioned in the intro, we're joined today by a very special guest from Flames Nation. His name is Robert Munnich. He writes for them and he posts highlight clips for flamesnation.ca. Robert, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm pumped to be here. I've listened to a few of your guys' episodes already, and I'm liking what you're doing. So I really appreciate you having me on.
Really appreciate it, Robert. Let's get down to business here about the Calgary Flames. We're now 10 games in. They have a game later tonight as we're recording against the Dallas Stars. If you had one word to describe the first 9 games so far, what would it be?
Disaster, pretty much. I think everything that could have possibly gone wrong has, except for the fact that Jacob Markstrom's played pretty solid for the most part. Outside of that, I would argue that, all the storylines heading the year, like the good vibes, and Huberdeau is going to have a bounce back, and Kadri is going to be great. Like everything that we needed to go right has gone wrong in the first 9 games, which sucks because I was looking forward to this season. But I would say disaster right now.
Let's talk about that for a second. You just spoke about the fact that you were pretty excited about, this team going into the season. What were your expectations levels at for this team this year?
I think heading into the year, it was that they were probably going to be a bubble team. So they could probably finish anywhere between, 11th in the West all the way up to maybe 6th, maybe get like that 3rd spot in the Pacific. That's if everything went right. And I mean, I was kind of buying into the hype heading into the season. You heard all the media members talking about, how different the vibes are in Calgary. Huberdeau was going to have this big comeback season. You heard all that kind of stuff. Oliver Shillington's going to come back. And like, there was a lot to be excited about. Sharon Govich could score 20 playing on the top line. So I kind of bought into the hype a little bit. And it just hasn't happened yet. And with the way they're playing right now, like we're not even really seeing signs of them getting out of it and being a playoff team, which is the scariest part. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like, have you seen like in any game for 60 minutes, have you seen any flashes where you're like, yeah, okay, this team is a good team. They could compete for the playoffs?
No. Not a chance. Not a chance. And, and I'll tell you this, Robert. So, we looked at last year's team and how bad that was. And this year's team, as compared to last year, is an extremely stark contrast. And the way I'm going to say this is this. Last year's team overachieved under Daryl Sutter. And really, this year's proven so far that this team was built so much worse than we thought. Right. And everyone said going into the season that Sutter was the problem. It was all Daryl Sutter's fault. Right. And don't get me wrong, Daryl had to go. But the reality of the situation is that there's no more Daryl Sutter. What's your excuse now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like the interesting question is, based on like all fan reaction and media reaction, it was Daryl Sutter's fault last year. The reason Huberdeau got 55 points, that's Daryl Sutter's fault. The reason they played, such boring hockey, Daryl Sutter's fault. But like you said, no, like I'm almost wondering, like, did Daryl Sutter get the most out of that team last year? With a mediocre roster, did he get the most? Like, if it wasn't for him, would they be kind of in this position they are now last season? It's a pretty interesting question to ask and bring up.
The team was 1 point away from making the postseason, and they had 1 point better than the Florida Panthers, who went on to the Stanley Cup final last spring.
And that was with terrible goaltending and your stars
Yes,
not being stars. And yet
exactly.
Sutter still got the team to that point. You could make that argument.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as we talked about, people were saying, "Oh, it's Sutter's fault. The positive vibes are going to be what brings this team to be better." It's like the team is even worse without Daryl as coach.
That's what it's looking like. And like the question you could ask is, okay, so did Daryl Sutter get the most out of this team? Or did Daryl Sutter, was he the reason why Jacob Markstrom had a bad year because of his, mental tactics? Kadri and Huberto having off seasons, was that Daryl Sutter's fault, or did he get the most out of the team? It's really interesting because right now it's looking like Daryl Sutter did kind of squeeze the most out of that group of players so far. I mean, that's what we're seeing so far.
Well, and you know what? We've had this conversation on DM, and my biggest thing has always been is that if the Calgary Flames were going to fall flat on their face this year, if they were going to have a horrible year once again, it was not going to be because of the coaching. Let's make that very, very clear. It was not going to be because of Ryan Huska. It was going to be because of the fact that the stars are not stars again. And the fact, I think we're way beyond the whole thing of, okay, it's the coach's fault. It's the coach's fault, right? Now it's been pretty clear for years that it's on the players. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's on the players at this point. This group has been together for a long time now, except for, well, obviously for Huberto and Kadri. They weren't here before Gaudreau and Chuck left. But the point is we've always blamed the coaching and everything else for its issues, and yet here we are. The mix has never worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
Eh,
you can make the argument like going back to that 2015-2016 season, Bob Hartley's last year. It's
yeah.
almost like every year or every second year, it's always the coach's fault. So whether it's
Mhm.
Gulletson in the second year, he lost the room by playing Brian Elliott in the playoffs, or I mean, we can't talk really about Bill Peters, but the interesting thing about Bill Peters is
Yeah.
that the Flames were playing terrible. They were playing horrible hockey the year that he resigned. So like my guess is that he probably wouldn't even have lasted the season had those allegations not come out. But then
Yeah.
it's Jeff Ward's fault. Now it's Daryl Sutter's fault. And now we're seeing people online talking about Ryan Huska, saying that now it's Ryan Huska's fault. It's not the coaches. We need to stop blaming the coaches. I'm totally with you, Noah. Like enough is
Yeah.
enough. It's on this group of players. They're just not good enough. Like they're just mediocre. Missing the
Yeah.
playoffs, making the playoffs, missing the playoffs, making the playoffs. That's not. I don't think that's 100% of coaching. I think a lot of that is on the players, and they need to take responsibility for that.
What do you think, Connor?
Having the players try to take responsibility is a very, very big task for the players, because that would actually mean they'd have to put their egos out of the way and realize that they have to actually blame themselves and look at themselves in the mirror and say, how can I make myself better, rather than looking at last year it was the coaches and the goaltending, this year it's still the coaching and it's bad defense now. So take a big look. Like, they need to take a big long look in themselves in the mirror, especially Kadri and Huberto, and say, what can I do to help guide this team? And you know what? It's not even those two. It's Michael Backlund as well. About instead of just being another player, having a C, be a captain. You have a C for a reason. It's great that you won the King Clancy Award because you showed your community. You showed that you care. So show that you care on the ice and with the team, rather than just kind of going, it is what it is. No, I don't know. Oh, it's the team's got to kind of be better. It's like, no. Talk about, like, because I remember Jerome McGinley. He, every time the team would do awful, he'd say it starts with me. It's as simple as that, and he would blame himself first. It's like, that is what a captain does. He doesn't go and he doesn't say, it's Markstrom's fault, or it was our D line's fault, or it was our first line's fault. No, it's say, you know what? It's my fault for not motivating them enough to actually play the hockey that they want to play. They talk again. Everything is that they talk about this. Them saying, "Oh, we want to play this kind of hockey and we want to do better in this." Do they really mean it though? because on the ice it sure doesn't look like it. So, right, like actually step up to the plate rather than using your egos and the media to tell everybody that you're going to do better. Actually, actually take some effort for yourself to do better. So
That's a good point, Connor. Like the one thing I've noticed this year, and I guess even last year too, it's like when you watch this team, there doesn't seem to be like any chemistry with them, whether it's on the ice,
No.
off the ice. Like does this team look like they really enjoy like playing together? Does it look like they enjoy hanging out with each other? You know, do they have that chemistry on the ice where they can find each other and like playing with each other? Like I don't really see that at all. And I think a big reason for that is because
Mhm.
this team has been built on trades and free agency for the most part. There's hasn't been like a ton of guys that have been drafted and developed and like come up together at the same time because that core group of guys that did come up together, they're all gone now. So now it's like you're lacking chemistry and I like that point about accountability too. How many times have we heard Nazem Kadri take accountability? I haven't heard it
0.
once since his time since coming to Calgary. I mean, I think Huberdeau did a little bit at the end of last year, but that was after just an epic disaster of an 82 game schedule, and we still haven't seen him take accountability. So I'm with you, Connor. I totally agree with what you're saying.
oh,
And with Huberdeau, I've not seen accountability at all this season. Just none.
Nope.
And the problem too with what Backlund says about, things like, we're a good group, right? I've heard that for years.
They say that
And I've heard
every
that for
season.
years. It's the same
Ugh,
thing every year.
so annoying.
like you heard it going back to Gio, you heard it going back to Monty, to Johnny, to everybody else. It's the same thing every year where they say we're a good team, we're a good group, or this and that. No, you're not. You've never been that. So like why do you keep repeating the same thing?
I totally agree. I mean, the interesting thing is like I could see like the Johnny, Monty, Kachuk group and like Bennett. I could see those guys
Mhm.
actually like genuinely liking each other and having like a bit of
Oh
chemistry
yeah.
just because they did come up together. This iteration of the team, I don't see it at all. Like
No.
I don't know if this group like hates being around each other by any stretch, but like compared to other teams that they've been on in the past, like ask Nazem Kadri, did he have more fun in Colorado or is he having more fun in Calgary? You know, did Huberdeau
Colorado.
have more fun in Florida or is he having more fun in Calgary? Like I don't think this team is meshing at all, and I think it's one of the reasons why I think they should probably go in a different direction.
Well, you can almost ask the same thing about that with Jacob Markstrom. You say, "Hey, are you having more fun did you have more fun in Vancouver, or are you having more fun in Calgary?" Because that's one of the issues is too is that like okay, even though Markstrom didn't even make I don't think was in the playoffs once while he was with the Canucks. There was still at least something there for Markstrom to hold on to. There was still at least something that he could do. Um, right now, there is nothing. There's practically nothing in front of him that can actually help him. He's having to work his ass off to essentially just try to make sure that he doesn't have like a 0.85 save percentage while getting these like 5 shots in a row on the net while his team his defensemen stand around and just kind of half-ass kind of like block a shot and just go like this and don't even look at the shot, right? Like it comes to a point, and actually this was something that my hockey team was saying it was after there was a couple things. It was like, so we have a question for you because we're looking at kind of how the stats are going. We're looking at our draft picks. We're looking at all UFAs, and we're just saying, hey, Markstrom, we have a question for you. You have 3 years? Oh, 3 years left, and for the next 5 to 7 years, this team will probably be absolute dog shit. So we have a question for you. Do you want to waive your no trade clause and go to a team that has a contending capability, that can actually skate, that can do all of this, or do you want to have the rest of your career be in complete mediocrity and you probably won't ever see the playoffs again for the rest of your career?
I'll mention that for a second about Markstrom, but they were talking about that on 960 yesterday, Robert.
Mhm.
If you didn't listen to Saravelli on there, like they were talking about the possibility of would Jacob Markstrom waive his no movement clause in the event that the Flames do decide to sell, and which we're going to talk about the Flames selling in a little bit. But yeah, if you're a lot of these like players who are unrestricted free agents, what's got to be going through your mind just seeing this right now?
That I don't want to play here for another 8 years.
Yeah,
Probably.
exactly. Yeah,
Like realistically, okay, so if you're Elias Lindholm, like, do you really want to commit 8 years of your life, like literally the rest of your career, all like the best, the best years of your career that you have remaining with this team? Like, I don't see it. I don't know why you'd want to do that.
yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Same thing goes for Noah Hannafin. This, like, it's just so obvious that this group is not going to be very good for a long time unless they pivot like now. It's like it's now or never, because if they keep going the way they're going, it's inevitable. Like, they're gonna have to rebuild at some point. So you just keep
Yes.
pushing it out, pushing it out. It's just gonna take longer and longer. I would just say rip the Band-Aid off and just go for it now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing I'll say is that as I posted on Twitter, I want to say I don't know if it was Monday or Tuesday or something like that, but Murray was in the building for the Heritage Classic, and there's just absolutely no way he can be satisfied with this at this point. Like, he cannot possibly be that stupid, can he?
Well, he's insanely smart. You don't become a multi-billionaire without being like a borderline genius. So the guy is obviously smart, but like at the same time, it's just like read the room, man. Like we've just look at social media. Just look at the attendance. Like, I was at that game on Thursday, and I've never been to a more boring Flames game, and I've never seen the dome more empty with 5 minutes left in a third period. I've never seen it before. It was shocking. Like, it looked like there were like 4,000 people left with 5 minutes left in the game. Like, if that doesn't ring alarm bells for Murray Edwards, then I don't know what's wrong with him. But everything you hear about Murray is like he just wants to remain competitive. So to me, that says that he's probably not even going to commit to a rebuild and probably more of a retool, which potentially could just lead to what we're seeing now for even more years, which is just crazy. But that's just the way it seems like it's going to be. I don't know. Now, can I just ask you guys a question here? I'm always curious to hear from fans. Do you guys want to hear from Murray Edwards, or do you not really care what he has to say?
Yes. I want to hear from him.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Biggest thing is that, we've never heard from him before. He's never done a press conference for the Flames before. I actually, listen. If he were to go up to the podium and say what he wants to say and say that this is what I actually want to do, I can respect him a little more for that, because at least you hear from the guy. But the fact is, you never hear from the guy, and all the mandate is what we've seen right now. This is why people like me don't like the guy, is because we want to see actually more from him. I'm not expecting him to be George Steinbrenner. I'm not expecting that whatsoever.
Yeah,
but
he doesn't need to be Jerry Jones.
Yeah, something like that too. But what I expect from the guy is I expect to hear from my owner and be like, okay, what are you going to do for me as a fan, as a consumer of your product, as someone who you think should be buying your products, should be buying your merch, should be buying your beer, should be buying your food, etc. What are you going to do for me as a consumer?
And it's like, it's no different than like his normal business, like with Canadian Natural Resources. Like, he has shareholders he needs to speak to about the direction of his company. He has employees he has to talk to. He has customers he has to talk to. So like he does all that with his own companies, yet with the Flames, he just remains silent. And it would be fine if he had like a Ken King type of person around to actually speak on his behalf, because Ken King used to be really good at that and was very insightful. But like, they don't have that. Like, John Bean is just not that guy. He just doesn't feel comfortable doing media, and that's totally fine. But like, if he's not going to speak on your behalf, you're not trotting out Don Maloney. He's not very good with the media. Like, the guy was almost crying at a couple press conferences. And you don't want to put Craig Conroy in that situation because he's just the hockey guy. He's not the business end. So it's like
he'd be more used as a puppet, basically.
Probably. Yeah, you're right. And so I think it's time for him to step up, speak, be a leader, and talk to us, because like you said, like, we put in time, we put in money, our like emotional state like is affected by this stupid team. So like he should have to like to talk about that. And Connor, do you see it the same way, or do you not really care about what he says?
Dude, you know what I called him because of this whole thing with him not speaking up, him barely even addressing it and everything like that, is I called him the modern day Harold Ballard.
Hopefully minus the racism and misogyny.
Yes.
Yes.
But in regards to ticket prices going down, then I'll do something about it. But other than that,
Yeah.
who cares? He's going to cackle and scream when ticket prices or the revenue goes up from the playoffs, and then we'll just count his money and then be done. Because there's there's been nothing on his end, and there's been no kind of like you said, John Bean has done nothing. He's just been like, one of the quiet guys just saying, I don't know what to do here. So, but like Harold Ballard, like that, like the kind of thing with Harold Ballard, it was he did not really care for the team. All he cared about was how much money am I making from the team, so I can get myself richer, which is what I feel like it is, because this is like there's nothing he's doing other than screwing it over.
And that's fine to be that way, because like it is a business and you obviously want to make money.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, like with a professional sports team, I also view it as like part of the community. Like you can like call it a community asset. And the thing is, like, if you want to make money, what's the best way to make money? To build a sustainable winner, to build a team that's like fun and entertaining to watch, that people want to buy tickets to go see. So what he's doing now is just the complete opposite of that. It's like, if you really want to make money, build a good team and stop being mediocre, because the fans are just pissed off and they've had enough of this garbage. Like, it's just, to me, it's like, it's so simple. And it's just like, I think it's like common sense. Like, I don't know if you guys see it the same way, but I think it's crazy how that guy like just refuses to rebuild. It just does not make sense to me.
Not to mention, too, that you've had a majority of Canadian teams that have also decided to rebuild, like the Leafs, the Montreal Canadiens, the Oilers to an extent, despite, the Oilers one, we don't need to get too much into that one of how bad that one was. But you've also seen, the Senators, the New York Rangers rebuilt. They
Canucks
sent a letter out to their fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So, like, and you talk about, like, ticket sales and whatnot going down all of a sudden. It's already begun.
Oh yeah.
Like we were at the game against the Rangers the other night, and it looked not full at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when was the last time we've seen numbers like these? Like, going back to the 90s, to the Young Guns era? Like,
probably.
Dude, it's beginning right now, and I don't think it's gonna stop anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, now another thing I keep hearing, that this is mainly from the media. They keep bringing up the question and like saying, will fans support a rebuild? Like I've heard a whole bunch of Calgary media people say, like, well, they can't go and do a rebuild because the fans won't support it. I think it's a load of bullshit.
That's a lie.
I think the Calgary Flames fans are smart. Like, they understand hockey, they understand the NHL. Like, if you just presented and communicated a plan to them saying, hey, we're going to take a step back for a couple of years to build for the future and get a new core of young players, fans would totally be up for that.
Oh yeah,
as long as you communicated that with them. But it's like what's going to make you more money, or what's going to lose you more money, going into a rebuild or continuing this garbage for the next 4 to 8 years? I think the fans would support a rebuild.
I think I think the fans have been waiting a long time for a rebuild, and I think at this point it's at the desperation point, because I think a rebuild for this organization has been 20 years overdue, without a doubt, 20 years overdue. Because back in the Young Guns era, and you remember it a little better than I do to an extent, the fact of the matter is they were doing the same stuff back then as they're doing now.
Oh yeah, they're just throwing money at free agents, making trades, trying to remain competitive. Yeah, it's been happening forever.
Exactly. And that's the thing. So for the media to say that fans won't support a rebuild is a lie. Mm-hmm. That is a stone cold lie. Like, I don't need to call out on the show who those people are. You know who you are. But But to say that fans won't support a rebuild, have you read social media? Like,
Yeah, no. I was gonna say there's a difference. There's a difference between a boring bad team and a bad team that's also fun to watch. If you have a bad team who is in a rebuild, then you know what? There's going to be some young guys out there who are showing off their talent. Who, there's a couple older guys, there's a couple really newer guys, and you want to see what they're all about. These new guys. And that includes something like getting Dustin Wolf out there, getting Connor Zari, getting Peltier, Serenkovic, and Coronado, all those guys out. And if this is still during the rebuild phase, dude, I would absolutely still go and watch it. I know they wouldn't do well. They might not do well against those more elite teams, or they might just surprise it. Because guess what? At least we'd see potential. Right now, we're seeing zero potential, and that does not make me motivated to go to a Flames game, because I just know, again, the definition of insanity is doing the exact same shit and expecting different results. They doing the exact same thing with lines and everything like that. We know that the same people, and we're I'm supposed to expect something to change. All of a sudden these guys are going to go, oh, it's a 5-0 game for the Flames and against like a top contender or even a NHL team. Like, no. So yeah, it's just, yeah.
this episode of the Flame and Talk podcast is presented by DraftKings. The NFL season is currently going strong, and DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking new customers up with an offer that's even stronger. Bet $5 on any game this week to score $200 instantly in bonus bets. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener offer every game day this October. Discuss upcoming game by mentioning available lines and odds from the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Please do not provide bet advice on how audience should wager. So we highly recommend that you get in on that game day greatness. So you make sure you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use the code THPN. And new customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet 5 on the NFL. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sportsman partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. We really highly recommend all of you to please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, licensing partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles, 21 plus, ages varies by jurisdiction. Valid in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Usually for me, the holiday season is very chaotic with the shopping, with the food, with trying to make sure you get your families, something that they want for Christmas, something that they love. And, it's November 1st right now, so it kind of might be too early to start decorating for the holidays. But I'll probably say that it's never too early to start your holiday shopping. So why not take care of it now? Before the crowds and the packed calendars make a shopping a total nightmare, especially when you can get some of the best deals of the season well before Black Friday, you can shop Raycon products right now and save up to 50% off because their early Black Friday sale is going on now. Raycon first made a name for themselves in the audio space with products like their everyday earbuds, known for delivering high quality and thoughtful features, like a 32-hour battery life and a perfect in-ear fit for all-day wearing and lasting comfort. And this past year, they expanded their entire business with the introduction of Raycon Home and Raycon PowerTech. Their 5-star review Magic 180 cable allows you to charge iOS, micro USB, and Type-C devices 8 times faster with 100-watt power delivery. Their faucet filter ultra filters the water in your tap against chlorine and heavy metals. It's a must-have for ensuring the water you use to wash your face and brush your teeth is, actually clean. Raycon is known for delivering high-quality and thoughtful features at half the price of their premium tech brands. It's no wonder their products have racked up tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. To get everyone in the holiday shopping spirit a bit early, Raycon is currently offering 20% off everything on their site, with select products up to 50% off. So beat the crowds and save now. Trust me, you do not want to miss out on Raycon's early Black Friday sale. Hurry now to buy raycon.com/THPN to get 20 to 50% off site-wide. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score up to 50% off Raycon products. Buyraycon.com/THPN. How long can he really wait until they start selling off their pending UFAs?
I guess the big issue would be you don't want them to get hurt, especially a guy like Tanev or Zadorov that plays a physical style. So, like, in that respect, I mean, with a guy like Tanev, like, I don't think you want to wait till the deadline to move somebody like him, because I'm worried that he's going to get hurt, because the guy's just a savage, blocking one-timers with his skull and stuff like that. Like that guy's going to get hurt. He's a maniac. So I think with him specifically, I think you probably start shopping sooner than later. But I think with guys like Lindholm, Hanifin, Zadorov, I think you could probably wait more towards the deadline, because I think that's when the prices really get out of hand and get kind of crazy. So I would say Tanev, Vladar, probably try to move them quickly so you can get Dustin Wolf up, and once again try to keep Tanev healthy. And then the other group, probably wait till the deadline. I'm curious. So, like, there's obviously, there's the obvious guys, the UFAs, but would you guys consider moving out like a Dylan Dubé, who's on the last year of his contract, or even like a guy like Andrew Mangiapane? Like, do we see those guys as like people you want to build around for the next 8 years? Like, or is it just the UFAs that you'd like to see moved out?
I would. I mean, I know. You probably know where I stand. Wait, sir.
I said Dubé, yes. Mangiapane, no.
Really? You wouldn't move out Mangiapane?
I wouldn't move out.
Oh,
I think he actually has some decent assets with him. I think he still shows, but because we see that when he's with a decent team who actually has his back and whatnot, we've seen some amazing plays by him. We've seen some great, but Dubé, even I just have not seen that same kind of thing.
No,
I just haven't. So Dubé, yes, move. Mangiapane, no. I'd say that we give him the same type of, we give him some, or he helps us with rebuild, with the rebuild on, or I guess that's not a good way to put it, but he'll be within the rebuild team process, not through a trade, but actually just still being on the team.
What if a team offers like the Tanner Jeannot deal, or like Tampa did, like Brandon Hagel, where it's like a first, a second, maybe even a prospect?
Then at that point, yeah. That point, yeah. No, I'm saying if Mangiapane, what he's worth, if he's worth a first rounder, yeah. Sorry, I appreciate. I do like you, Maj, but yeah, you got to go. If it's for something like a third round and again another subpar defenseman, or then I'd be like, no, keep him. So I
see. I'll say this about Mangiapane as well. I mean, the guy scored 37 goals 2 years ago, and the thing is, he has not looked quite the same player. And the other thing I'll add too is he's not getting any younger. Like, the guy is 27 years old now at this point, entering 28 next summer or something.
Yeah,
like,
and
I would try
him in like a year, and he's going to be like 28 or 29 years old, and he's going to want 6 or 7 years. Does that make sense?
No, and I would probably say that makes no sense at all, because basically you're going to keep placing yourself with both anchor contracts for the next decade and a half. And it's like, what are we doing here by giving all these guys more contracts? Like, as I've said, if you're rebuilding, it's clean slate. Time for a clean slate. And that includes Dylan Dubé, and that includes all the rest of them as well. Like, time for a complete clean slate of everything. And then we'll talk about the direction thing as well. But if I'm Connie, I think everything's on the table right now.
Mm-hmm. Are there any guys that you don't want to see moved who are currently on the roster? Because like Wolf is an obvious one, but currently on the roster.
Coronado as well. Coronado as well, Peltier, etc. All the young kids and that type of thing. You
It's like
definitely
anyone
don't
who's
move
like
those.
23 or younger, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel the same way.
that's pretty much where I'm at right now as well. Is that all the guys who are probably like 23 and under, you absolutely don't move. But if you're talking about guys who are probably 23 and over, including the Elias Lindholms, etc., like everything is on the table right now. If
Mhm.
I'm Craig Conroy and if I'm the
Again,
management staff right now.
you have to also make sure about what the like who's going to be on the UFA and then what they're offering to. But I mean I don't want to, like we were saying before, the pick and choose, just kind of, oh, piece of candy, oh, piece of candy, oh, piece of candy, right? That kind of thing. And picking up little kind of like shit, like even Lindholm even Lindholm has some value, so we need to pick up something good from him. Yeah, so
Someone's gonna give him
but
$9 million.
oh sure,
Why?
I hope it's not us. I just hope it's not us.
I hope it's not the Flames either, but somebody is going to overpay him on the open market. It's going to happen.
I just see Lindholm like turning into Michael Backlund, where he's like a 40 to 50 point guy and like a good defensive center. You know, a guy like who's probably like a good second line center, like an elite third line center. Like that's what I see him turning into
Exactly.
like pretty quickly here. So for anyone, including the Flames, to offer him $9+ million on an 8-year deal, I think is just insane. I think it just makes absolutely no sense. I don't know how anyone can truly justify that contract. Like we heard, like that was like a huge debate this offseason that a lot of fans were getting into, and like I'm clearly on the side where they need to move him. And I don't understand the arguments of having to keep him. Like, they say, oh, well, then you lose your first line center. Is he a first line center? And if
He's
he
not.
is, how much longer is he going to be at that level? Like, I think he's on the precipice of like a pretty big decline in his play. So, and like the thing is, like, you're going to get draft picks. You could get like some prospects. Like, use those draft picks and use them as lottery tickets, and that's where you find your elite talents. I know it's hard. It's not easy to do, of course, but it's keeping a 30-year-old or a 31-year-old just because if you lose him, you won't have that position is just ludicrous thinking, in my opinion.
Yeah. And what it does is actually brings up more options for that first line about who wants to replace. Let's like, hey guys, let's look at like for the centers out there. Maybe it's a young guy. Maybe it's one of our. They're just like, you know what, for this game we want you to be the to be on the first line as our center, and if things go well, okay, well then we'll consider that, right? Because obviously you still want your more veteran forwards on the first line. You want to keep your young guns on the third, fourth line, maybe even second, but mostly third and fourth, just to get a better feeling. But who knows? It could be someone who you never expected to take even that center position, even if they're not a center. They're just like, hey, want to play center? And they take that position and they're like, holy shit, man. You can you can move the puck. Wow, you have flexibility in your play. Wow, you can actually, like, I know it's amazing. It's amazing how that works, right? So just a little bit of, like, the press, or sorry, not press. The fact of the matter is, keeping the guy, keeping Lindholm for the sake of keeping him, just because he's a first line center, that doesn't work. And like you said, he's like 30, he's 30, 31 plus. And and I'm not going to keep him for another 8 years just for him to literally look like he needs a walker by the time he's 35 on the ice. Like,
totally. And like another thing too is, like, you find those players in the draft, but like you can also trade for them too. Mm-hmm. And if you do a good job of accumulating draft picks and cap space, you can put yourself in a position for, when the time comes for a young center that goes on the trade market, like you can be in a position to make that deal. It's because, like, Jack Eichel got traded, Pierre-Luc Dubois got traded. Like, there are good players that end up on the trade market, but you need to put yourself in a position where you can actually bring them in through, with draft picks and cap space and that kind of stuff. And the Flames never do that because they always spend the cap unnecessarily. So it's not even like if you lose Lindholm, it's just you have to find one in the draft. You can still trade for one too. Like those guys do become available.
They do. Yeah, they really do. And I guarantee you, like your trade package for Elias Lindholm, because there are a lot of teams, as I've said, will overpay this guy not only in free agency, but even on the trade as well. Your trade package could be really, really good for a lot of these guys who are penning UFAs. Because we've seen how ridiculous the trade market gets. Like, look at the Janelle trade from last year that you brought up as well, and how bad that's already looking for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So to your point, is like I think a lot of what you're going to get back at the deadline for these guys are, I feel, going to be franchise potential altering moves and pieces potentially at some point in the future. But we'll put a bow on this part of the conversation, and I want you guys to put your GM hats on, and I want you to put your Craig Conroy GM hat on.
Don't put on your bachelor living hat. Please don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Only your Conroy hat.
Okay, so if you're Craig Conroy, what? I love it, Connor.
There you go. Go.
So okay, so if you're Craig Conroy and let's say you're Colin Murray Edwards, what is your plan to Murray Edwards in terms of a rebuild? What is your sell to Murray Edwards on the rebuild? And what is your entire plan that you're going to lay out for him? And that's
a big question.
It's a huge question.
Let's let Connor start. Let's hear Connor's.
Oh dear God. Oh, people are going to comment like, I'm not a real fan. You shouldn't even be playing hockey. Why are you even watching it? No, I get this. Get your loser friend off this podcast. Oh man. Well, first off, I would say, like, our UFAs, like the pending UFAs, they need to go. There have been like, we need younger talent on this team. So I am telling him, I'm saying, we either do one of two things. We get rid of them now, or we wait till the trade deadline, and then we try looking for what's on the market. If there are draft picks, then we'll look for more prioritized draft picks, because we need young talent. Because frankly, there's a bunch of players in our AHL team who are much more capable right now of actually playing decent, even not even good, decent hockey than what we have right now. Then I would say, let's consider about buyouts. If there comes a point in this season, I would say, I'm not saying don't do it now, but I'd say after this season, if that 55-point season, if Huberdeau does worse, then I'm saying he's done. I am not even, because we don't need that type. It's a tumor. You have Kadri and Huberdeau as a tumor. It's not I don't see a tumor as in they're bad people. I just want to say tumor as in their game. That's all. I just want to clarify that for anybody out there. But they are sucking dry the team, not only in cap space, but also, energy, because they're supposed to be top line guys, and they're supposed to be, your high percentage goal scorers and blah, 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 all that thing. So either someone gives us a miracle and say, hey, we'll take that contract off your hands, or you buy him out. And I start with Kadri first, and then I look at Huberdeau. Because at this point, it's either do or die. It's either now or never. It's becoming desperate. He said, if you think that 5 to 7 years will be bad, imagine over a decade. Imagine Buffalo Sabres playoff drought type of thing. Because if we keep these guys and then we have our young guys, or we continue to throw just money out, that are either top guys or people that look interesting, you're not getting anywhere other than a big whoop in the ass. So, you develop, obviously we develop the guys we already have as a draft. We take the guys that right now in the UFA, we take anything that we can get, and we consider about buying out to bring up new to hopefully eventually bring out a new to get a new get some new talent. That's kind of what I'd say. I put my fist down at that point. That's what I do. I put my fist down. I'd be like some dictator.
I mean, I'm pretty much on board with most of that. I mean, I think you have to start totally by identifying players on this roster who you don't think are going to be part of your team moving forward, and you try to get as much for them as possible. So, like, in that group is Lindholm, Hanifin, Tanev, Zadorov. I don't hate the idea of maybe bringing back like maybe Zadorov, because I still think you need to have characters and players on your team. You need to still have NHL players, but I digress. But I throw Dubé in there. I'd throw Mangiapane in there. If someone's willing to take on a Blake Coleman, I'd throw him in there. Even I'd throw Jacob Markstrom in there. So I'd have this whole big group of players that I'd be willing to trade for draft picks and younger players. And then the pitch to Murray Edwards is you have a half decent core of young players. Like Dustin Wolf has the potential to be like a Saros type of goalie. You have your Pelche, Coronado, Honzik, Zeri, Poirier, Etienne Morin, Suniev. Like you have like that pretty decent group of players, and I'm sure like a Solovyov or some other guys are gonna come through as well. So then you use all your draft picks that you have now, all the draft picks you acquire for all those players that I just listed. You use those, and you just bring up just a whole new young core of players that can come up together at the exact same time. Because like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, but like I think that's how you win. Like I think you get that core group when they're young, and you get them to grow up together. They win together, they lose together, they party together, they go out together. Like they hang out as a group all the time. I think that's how you build team chemistry, and that's how you build like a championship roster. So that's how I would pitch it, and I would just say, we're going to take the next 2 to 3 drafts with really good picks, and we're going to draft like crazy. We're going to scout like crazy, and we're going to develop this new core. And then by the time that new building opens, which will probably be in 4 or 5 years, there's going to be like an exciting group of young players for this fan base to get behind. And that's going to be a cash cow for Murray Edwards. Like if he can sell out that new building and sell out luxury suites, and people are buying beers and parking and all this crap, like that's going to be huge for Murray Edwards. So that's kind of how I would position it is let's get a new core. Let's get a new Kachuk, Gaudreau, Monahan kind of group of players. And by the time the building opens, we're going to be ready to at least compete for a playoff spot, but we're going to be exciting and we're going to be entertaining because that's what the fans want, in my opinion. So that's probably how I would position it to Murray.
I think that was very well said by both of you. And to that, let's talk about the buyout part just for a quick second here, because I think it was one of our peeps in our group chat who posted about Kadri's buyout clause, which I think is like $4 for 1 year, $2 million for 2 years, and then the rest of it's like $1.5 or $6 million for the rest of it. That I would not be. No, it's not like that. I would not be against buying out Kadri after this season at all, especially looking at what that buyout clause now is at this point. Huberdeau, I think, is going to be. I think that would be really. It would be a disaster if they.
Okay, so I got it up here, Noah. Can I just like say what the numbers are?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so hypothetically speaking, say they buy him out this year, or in the upcoming offseason, the cap hit for the Flames for the next. Oh my God, it goes till 2037. It goes 8 million, 8 million, 10.5, 10.5, 8 million, 10.5, 6. And then it's $1 million from 2031 to 2038.
Oh my God.
So the first, 3, 4, the first 7 years of that buyout, or like it's you can't do it. Like it's not
You
even
can't do it.
you can't do it. Like it's just the savings in a couple years is $95,000. So like
Oh,
it's that one is brutal, but the Kadri one it's actually not too bad.
yeah. I would probably buy out Kadri before I bought out Jonathan Huberdeau. Because to your point, that's gonna be ugly if they were to buy out Huberdeau after this offseason. That would make things even way worse than they are right now in that regard. But to the point, like, I mean, we talk about my biggest sell to Murray Edwards would be something similar to what you said, Robert. You've got a new arena coming in a couple of years. Rebuild now, actually build a team that can try and win a Stanley Cup by the time your new building opens. And you've got a good enough team where they can actually compete for a championship by then. Like, this is the thing and this is the part that comes back to that. Why aren't we rebuilding now? You've got a new building coming in a couple of years. Why aren't we doing this now?
And like, could you imagine this building opens and the team is like still as bad as it is now? Could they even draw 10,000 people in that new building?
No chance.
Probably not.
No chance.
There would be a sweet, like kind of that a sweet spot of the first couple months, we'd say, where everyone's like, "Ooh, new building," right? So everyone wants to get in. Everyone just wants to see the new building. But if they're still as bad as they are, that'll only last a couple months, and then everyone's like, "Yeah, actually now I want to watch the Flames play," and like, oh, there's not much going on in front of me other than us sucking still. So
yeah,
what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Another thing too, like I'll point out is I really think the Flames, because of like what's happened over the last 18 months, like they could potentially lose like a whole generation of fans in Calgary.
They really
so
could.
like I was at the Wranglers game this past weekend, and there's like the little kids between periods played hockey, and then someone was interviewing like one of the kids after, and they asked him, "Who's your favorite Flame?" And he's like, "I don't know." And I'm like, I heard that, and I'm like, that's bad. Because with like a little kid like that, it should be like Kachuk, Gaudreau, Huberdeau, Kadri. Like it should be like instantaneous. That's my favorite player. This kid is like, I don't know who my favorite player is. I'm like, I mean, that age group who's probably born 2010 onward, they're growing up with a Flames team with no star players, with like no hope, no entertainment. And it's so easy today to watch different teams and different players with like streaming apps and all that.
Yeah.
What's to stop like a kid from being a Connor McDavid fan instead of a Calgary Flames fan? So like that's another thing that would scare the living hell out of me, because those are like the next generation of fans who are going to pay your bills for the next 50 years, and they're not growing up as Flames fans. Like that's scary to me if you're John Bean or Murray Edwards.
Absolutely right. Like you're seeing, to your point, you see majority of people in the city that are not really true and diehard and bleed with the Flame and see. You're seeing people who are fans of the Oilers, for example, the Leafs, for example, the Rangers, all these other teams they cheer for because there's actually hope and they're actually entertaining. They sell you on, okay, we can actually be a team that can legitimately be a Stanley Cup contender. And the Flames have not done that since they won the Stanley Cup in 1989, which is to your point, this is like pre-2004.
At least like for like us growing up, like we had Jerome and we had Kipper, and you could throw like Phaneuf and maybe Regeer in there too if you wanted.
Yeah.
Like we had guys that like we could like kind of cling on to and be like, these are our favorite players because they're exciting. They play in international events. They're NHL All-Stars. Even though the Flames weren't that great, we still had Iggy. We still had Kipper. We still had Dion for our generation. Like this generation's got nothing. Like who's your favorite player? Like Dylan Dubé, who's like -10 right now and can't score a goal. Is your favorite player Huberdeau, who like turns the puck over 10 times a shift? Like they're just going to end up going elsewhere because the team doesn't have any stars, and you need to draft stars, and they don't have that right now.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, and you know what? To put a bow on this conversation as well, it's either now or never to rebuild or to retool or to do what you need to do to build a better team in the long term. We're going to just start to wrap up here on this very special edition of the Flame and Talk podcast. But Robert, before we wrap it up here, plug it in as to what you're doing for Flames Nation and what you've got coming up on the table here pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm writing at Flames Nation right now, so you can check out my articles at flamesnation.ca. And I'm also running the Flames Nation social media, so be sure to give it a follow on all different platforms. We'd really appreciate that. And I think at some point tomorrow, I'll have my next good, bad, and ugly article coming out that breaks down the last 5-game segment, which I don't know if there'll be many goods, and there might be a lot of uglies. So be sure to check that out.
That's Robert Munnich right there. And also you can go follow him at RinFireCGY on Twitter, X, whatever we're supposed to call it at this point. Robert, thank you so much for joining us here on the Flaming Talk podcast.
Thanks, boys.
That has been Bobby Germany, Robert Munnich, join us on the show here on episode number 7. We will be back next Monday, I think, for a brand new, fresh episode of Flamin' Talk. But for me, Noah Adler, and my co-host Connor Dolan, we wish you adieu.